Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Scott from Phoenix Terrain Systems. Word of warning, my lighting is crap. I will knock the camera over probably at least once, if not twice. Please hold your applause and or laughter until the end of the video. Anyway, I had posted on several different pages on the Facebookiverse my latest creation, my take on nebula painting on Eldar thingamabobs from Games Workshop. Had a lot of questions on how I did it, and a lot of people didn't actually believe how easy it was. I guess I think it's super hard. After watching a couple of videos on YouTube, I think a lot of people it's hard. That a lot of people think that it's hard also, especially the people that are doing it. But this is kind of a cheater method to get pretty decent results. It looks better in person, to be honest with you, but pretty decent results for the time spent. That's absolutely sure. And yeah, let's do this. So about what I'm using a little sheet of plastic that I got from a local plastic supplier. Just use Google Maps, search for plastic supplier, and you'll probably have one in your area. Lord knows I didn't know that I had one in my area when I searched, because I was looking for a cheap alternative to get plastic card. That's all this stuff is. Really thin plastic card. Primer that I used is generic box store all-purpose paint plus primer 2x coverage stuff. Can't remember if it's Krylon or Rust-Oleum. Actually, it's Rust-Oleum. It's the flat black version of this. The stuff that I should mention this. I'm actually also using a little bit of a template for some of the edge work from these people. I had ordered it off of eBay. I have no affiliation at all with them whatsoever. Airsick from California. They produce a lot of airbrush masking and templates and things like that. So, anyway. This is how you create it. There's a couple of different steps. Oh, by the way, yes, this place is dirty. This is my dirty dungeon basement. But it's easier to shoot down here than upstairs amongst the pets and children, etc. And I guarantee you my cheap Harbor Freight compressor is going to go off at least once during this video. And if it does, don't be frightened. I probably will, but don't you be frightened. Anyway, so to get started, all you're going to do is create a pattern on your surface however you want it to look in the end. So like if you want a bunch of like blue and purple and red and green or whatever type of nebula or star field that you're looking for, every single little bit on here, except for the speckles, just ignore the speckles right now, which I know that can be hard, but just the underlying stuff. Like, see, there's a little bit of color there, a little bit of color there, like a galaxy center there. All the different things, like right here, all that is created by the undercolor, the undertone that I'm going to be laying down right now in white. And for that, I'm using your basic Stylin' Res. Easy App Surface Primer from the good people at Badger. I'm a bit of a fanboy there. I'm using also a Badger Sotar 2020 that I got in last year's Happy Birthday celebration. When Ken turned 54, this year was 55. I didn't order any this time, but I know he's providing a lot of support for our competition, local competition here at the 2019 Quad City Game Fest. So if you're in the Midwest, you definitely want to check that out. It's a great place to go to get and discover all kinds of board games. So anyway, so the underlayment, you're going to want to take your time here. Once you have an idea of how you're, you know what, I'm just going to do it and you can see how it ends up. There's no wrong way to do this. It's all random. Ooh, no pattern. Now, when you know you're going to want to put a star someplace, all you do is just ease into it. Just like that. So that when you put the pigment, when you put the ink on later, and I'll tell you what kind and how much and where and all that good stuff when it's time. Anyway, that'll be the center of a star. That white is going to be tinted with the ink that you use later on. It's a nice subtle thing. Crazy patterns are cool. Just all kinds of stuff. And you can never have too much because I don't know about you all, but I've never been to outer space. And all the images that I see from NASA or the European Space Agency, if y'all are across the pond, are all false color anyway, most of them. So oop. If you feel like you've made any mistakes, just roll with it. It'll either be covered up later, or it will just... You know what? I just found that I was just about ready to start sounding like Bob Ross or something like that. You're like happy little accidents. But honestly, it is. You know what I mean? It really is. As cliche as it is. Totally cliche. So then, that's just for your soft clouds, right? Like your interstellar dust formations or whatever the hell whatever the heck you want to call them. This is just going to add a little bit of I'm just laying it down randomly. Just a little bit of differentiation. I'm pulled pretty far back here. It might be even completely off camera. But that's alright because all I'm doing is very lightly, very subtly, doing something like that. And what that's going to do is that's going to add a little bit of depth. And you don't even need to use something like this. You could probably just tear off a piece of cardboard or a piece of painter's tape or something like that. Like painter's tape. Just tear it off jagged like. In fact, let me just go ahead and do that right now. Put my money where my mouth is, so to speak. Hopefully it's that order and yeah, anyway. Apparently this stuff is like made out of titanium or something. Or else I need to take my vitamins. Because it is tough. While you're waiting on me to get this stuff torn, enjoy the music. There's no music. Because I'm cheap. Anyway, see? Just lay it down on there like y'all. Give it a little bit of, backwards to bring some of that paint out. Take it off. There you go. See? So you can spend the money for something like this. I did because it's durable and repeatable. So there you go. That's the undercolor. That's the tones that will shine through when you start inking. Excuse me. The only thing I have down here that's liquid is my paint water and rubbing alcohol, neither of which I want to drink, so you're just going to have to deal with it, people. These are my preferred choices. Or choice, I should say. Warcolors ink. You can use any kind of ink. Doesn't matter if it's indie ink, whatever kind you've got. The thing about this, though, that I've noticed, and in other projects, it was kind of a pain, but it really works out really well here, because when you put the stuff on, it remains like, even after it's dry, unless you put a sealer over it, it will bleed if you put like another color on it. Like it'll absorb it, it'll soak through. So like I said, with other projects, excuse me, it was not desirable at all, because you don't want that at all. Now keep in mind that I'm not planning this out. I'm not doing anything special, fantastic, other than taking a brush of any size and just painting, putting it in, letting stuff blend together naturally. Oh my gosh, wet blending! Oh, no, don't worry about it. If the stuff didn't want to blend together, it wouldn't blend together when you put it together. I hope that made sense. If it didn't, sorry. So wherever you feel like it. If you do this with colors other than, you know, purples and blues, experiment, of course, on something like this. But keep in mind your colors. So blue and purple are related. Well, all colors are related. But blue and purple goes together, you know. Red and blue and purple, I think. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Excuse my runny nose and coffee throat. Not caffee, but coffee, because I'm coughing. There you have it. That's how you do it. Now it will dry eventually. Looks like I got a little bit of a ride on here or something. I don't know what it was. Doesn't matter. It's going now. It's like the disappearing into the wind. Anyway. Oh, also if you guys can get a hold of one of these things, it's a great place to stick your brushes. It's amazing. My wife got that for me, I think. It's a pen and pencil holder off the somewhere online. So this equals this. I'll do another with the splatters and stuff. It's really, honestly, when I see people's tutorials online and stuff and hear people discussing it, they're all like trying to be technical and stuff. I don't see the need for it. It's literally just splashing ink over white primer with a little bit of creativity thrown in there. And you can do any color you want. Now, since we're not going to wait for it to dry, obviously this is the center of a star, right? because it's the brightest part. It's where all the light's coming off of. And by light, I mean white. This is the center of another star. So after this is all completely dry, you're going to take whatever white you use, whether it's a little splash of the white primer that you just sprayed, or whether it's whatever Citadel's white is. I don't use Citadel white because it hasn't been good for years. I use Vallejo white. Put a little dot, or a big dot, depending on how big you want the star, right in the dead center. Maybe right here. Wherever there is a concentration of white that you sprayed, that's likely going to be where a star is, because it's like the star is behind the gas cloud. It's shining light. It's kind of like you're shining a light or a flashlight through some stained glass, where the whole thing lights up, but like right where the light is, that's going to be the lightest part, the brightest part. So put your dots in the middle of where all your large stars are. Kind of plan it out. Like on this one, I knew I wanted to have like a galaxy in the middle. So I'll put a big splotch of white there, and then really carefully just went out with my arms, the galactic arms. So, and then over here, when I was spraying this, I was kind of jiggling and going all crazy, you know, doing a little like queen bee dance. That's what you get right here. The use of the templates, depending on how hard or how much primer you put onto the surface, is going to more tightly define where those light sources are. Just took the turret off of this. But if you look here, that area right there, that's the result of laying a template down. Spraying very lightly. And coming down here, doing the same thing right there. Then coming back and saying to myself, where would I want stars to be? And then how I did this part right here. You saw how. I'm not going to verbally describe it. You rewind it if you want. Play it again. Do that right here. That's where I wanted it. Kind of like this right here. So after it's all said and done and dried, that's when you put your dot in the middle. And depending on how watery the paint is, it will either, with this kind of ink, the Warcolors ink, it will either not bleed through very much at all, or bleed through a great deal. So the more watery the white is when you put it down, the more that moisture is going to reactivate the ink underneath it and pull the pigment forward. But that white is still going to be concentrated in that dot, so in effect it's going to look brighter. Kind of like what I was describing, the shining a flashlight through stained glass. You shine a really bright light, it's going to be more white. Same here. You can see there was a line there. I don't know if that was a template or a piece of tape. I went back and forth on a couple of these things. So then you put the dot in the middle of this brighter area where it was. That's what you get. Now that I'm looking at this, it looks like some parts of it are dry enough where I might want to just go ahead and try and put some white down. And keep in mind, when you do this, you're going to wait for all these things to be not bright and shiny like this. This Warcolor ink will dry kind of shiny, like some inks do. Most inks do, actually. They'll dry more shiny than your regular acrylic paint that you're used to. Like your Citadel or Vallejo or whatever. So I'm not going to... So anything you see that gets slopped on these wet parts, kindly ignore that. Excuse me. And I only use the finest Master's Touch brushes from Hobby Lobby. Number 2 is, of course, Number 2 rounds. This is not very watery paint, so it's not going to bleed too much color. Now, I have, watching on the message boards and threads and stuff, and painting threads, it's a lot of people say, you know, stick your brush in some, or stick your toothbrush in some white paint and use that to splatter effect. I think that's really, I mean, you could do that, that's fine. Whatever, that's your technique. I just think it's really uncontrolled. Not that anything that I'm doing right now is anything less than reckless abandon. But I don't know why, but I thought of this when I was first trying to discover how to get decent speckles. Pardon my lack of centering. I don't know why I thought to this one show that I saw on traditional tattooing from somewhere. I can't cite it. I apologize for all you people who demand such things. But anyway, just hold my hand and then I just strike with the paintbrush. The closer that I hold my hand, the closer that I hold my hands together, the more motion there is at the far end of this. Okay? So the more paint's going to get flung. So I'm just going to go right here. And it's relatively controlled. There you go. The density of splatter is up to you. Sometimes less is more, sometimes more is more. There's no hard and fast rule. It's whatever you like. Which is one of the reasons why I like this hobby. You can pretty much do whatever you want, however you want to do it. Like I said, ignore these parts right here because those will be dry. But this is how you get a good nebula. And I know there are other tutorials out there. Ink stains. Ugh. There's a lot of tutorials out there, actually. Do searches for airbrush nebula or paint nebula or something to that effect. And you're going to see there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of street painters that do this. But I don't think any of them do it the way I just did it. That I know of. I mean, I'm probably not the first to do it. Lord knows I figured out that I wasn't the first one to do the volcanoes that way back when I thought that I had a groundbreaking technique for that. But it was new to me, and this is new to me. I shouldn't say it's super duper easy, because you still got to kind of plan it out, look at it, and say, you know, does it actually make sense that something would be there? But then again, that's the 40K universe, or, you know, sci-fi universes, whichever one you're doing. I'm not having control issues. I'm actually just rinsing out my airbrush with alcohol before it dries. So if you have any questions at all, let me know. Post it on the Facebook page if you want like a semi-immediate response. Phoenix Terrain Systems. My name is Scott. The link will also be in the description on YouTube when this gets posted to YouTube. Yeah, just shoot me a message. Pop up on the page. Comment something. Like the page. Love the page. Whatever you want to do to it. Share it if you'd like. I'd love that. That seems to be where I get a lot of exposure from people sharing. Yeah. I know there's probably something I forgot to say or do, but that's what the comment section is for. If you comment on YouTube, it might languish for a little while because I'm a little bit remiss in checking that as often as I should, because quite frankly, I hate doing video tutorials because I feel that, I have no post-production. My area is not well lit. I don't have a super fantastic camera or anything like that. So anyway, hit me up, Phoenix Terrain Systems, on YouTube and on Facebook. Have an awesome day.